Yeah,
I pressed stop.
right there. Just take a picture.
Because I pressed stop.
We up there more?
I think we're up in both.
Okay. Start out with the first thought, talking about providence. And that's something that I think the older I've grown, the more I've come to appreciate it. Because looking back at my personal experiences in my life, I can see even through times that I would consider a failure, I can still see God's hand. Growing up, my childhood, my parents were Adventists, but we weren't regular practicing Adventists. We would go to church here and there. It's kind of spotted, hit and miss. And so that leaves a child wondering about God. You can't even have a real relationship or even a real concept of God if you don't spend time with him on a regular basis. So from the start, I was shaky. My parents were divorced at the age of 4. And that definitely added to the problems of everything. And I'll hit the fast forward button a little bit. Through that period, my mother raised me, and there was maybe twice that I got to see my dad. Since then, I have a regular conversation with him now on a weekly basis, but it's taken a lot of time to get to that point. The age of 13, and between there have been periods where I've been in and out of church, me and my family. My mother remarried Ted Olson, and he was an elder at our home church. And that was a very big part of my life because it established my spiritual foundation. He taught me what it means to be a Christian. He taught me what it means to be a man. I had the first father figure in my life, and he was a very good man, very good role model. About a year later, I was baptized, and I think I was beginning to have a relationship with God, but I never felt like God really talked to me. I didn't have that. I never had that personal experience with him yet at this point. I began getting real close with one of the other youth that was in the church. It was a very small church, and there was probably only 2 of us that were considered youth. So I became real close with this young man. His name was Rodney Logan. Had a very big impact on my life. And when I say friend, I say that very loosely. He was definitely a brother. This was the type of person that I could talk with, I could share anything with, without worry of judgment. I could tell him my thoughts, feelings, whatever. So we began, spending a lot of time together, extracurricular activities, through high school, junior high school, and so forth. About the age of 17, we started feeling restless in the church, and I was more of a follower, not a leader. And so, even though it was definitely my decision as well, we decided to leave the church. Decided we were missing out on things by going to church. And so we began doing all the things that we'd been missing out on. We began drinking, we began going to parties, going to concerts, getting away from God. And during this period, my friend began drinking real heavily, and that was the start of his alcoholism. I myself, within a couple of years, had met my first wife, and I was married, but she's a non-believer. And even though I wasn't practicing, those roots were still there. And even though I didn't have that established relationship with God, there was something that was still within me. A few more years down the road, being married, I start feeling convictions of responsibility. The Holy Spirit, I think, really started moving in my life. And I realized that there was more to life than just drinking, going out all the time. And so I started trying to be a more responsible person. And my friend, Rodney, continued with the partying and the drinking. There was a few episodes where I had gotten called by the police in the middle of the night and had to go and pick him up, and he crashed on my couch. Within probably a couple of years of this, I came more under conviction of the Holy Spirit, and I started attending church again. And for the first time in my life, I began really growing close with Christ. I began reading and studying the Bible on my own, and up to that point, had the greatest amount of spiritual growth I had ever had. And I started, for the first time, getting witnessing opportunities. I witnessed to employees, people that I was around. Because when Christ comes into your heart, it's transforming. When He's there, and you really start to develop a relationship, you can't help it not to share it. So I was sharing it with people that I was around on a day-to-day basis. And I got one last call. The last call I got was from the police that my friend was basically crashed out on their front doors of the police station. So I got in the car and had to go pick him up one last time. But I was trying to think about what to do because I'm starting to go to church and I really cared about Robbie. He was my brother. And so I decided to take him home to his parents. He lived at home. And I think they knew definitely what was going on, but it was sort of like the pink elephant in the room, you don't talk about it. He was kind of brushing under the table. That drive, I let him have it because it was a close relationship, a non-judgmental relationship. So as a brother, as a friend, I told him what he was doing to me and to everybody else in his life. And I began sharing with him that his actions, are hurting everybody else around him. That was kind of hard for me to do, but I did it anyway. And that began for him kind of a change of what he was going to do with his life. Because for the first time he realized that he was an alcoholic. And I think he actually started to take steps to rectify the situation. He decided to go into a rehab program. During this period, I was working for a family business. It was dry cleaners. I was sort of like the assistant manager and got a unique opportunity to work with Rodney for his class. During that period, I was his trainer, so I worked right next to him. And, we would just talk, and I would be able to get in and actually see how he was doing on a day-to-day basis. It was very unique and a very, I believe, ordained time for me and for Rodney. I can't explain it really, but now and then as I was working, I would get these ideas, stuff that hadn't come into my head since I was a young kid. Ideas about sermons, ideas about the spirit of prophecy, something that I heard once. And I would go to my stepfather because we had a full Adventist library there. And I would tell him about these things I was thinking about talking to Rodney about. And we would pray over it, and he could usually give me an idea of where to go, because I didn't always have the idea of where to go, and he could remember something. So after we would pray, I would go and I would study these things. And I would work over it. I'd pray about it. And then I would approach my best friend Rodney with these things. That was the first time I ever felt the Holy Spirit working through me. I can't even really explain it. It happened then, and it's never happened this way since, in this way. But the words that I would say, the topics I would use, struck home every single time. Everything that I said was something that he'd been wondering about. Everything that I said was a thing that he'd been struggling with, wondering himself about the night before. And he said things like, you really make me believe in God. Because that was really things he wanted in his struggle. And I actually got to spend the last few months of his life preaching to him. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was a direct witness for him. It was a very difficult time afterwards thinking about it, because the last day I met him, or when we got together right before he left, as we left, I just remember he, thinking about, well, should I give him a hug? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be like we're leaving. I shook his hand. And I think about that afterwards, and I think I should have hugged him, because I was that was the last chance that I had to see this man. But I think in my heart, with the convictions that he had, with the way that conversation had gone, with the period, I believe that there was a lasting impression upon his heart. And I believe that he gave his heart to God.
You got about 1 minute.
Okay. Ooh, boy, a lot of ground to cover. All right. Within a short period of time, the job that I had failed because bankruptcy, and I decided to join the military. I joined the military, and the marriage that I had with a non-believer failed due to infidelity on her part. And she didn't like the person I was becoming while I was at church. That led me into a whole lot of problems, being in the Army, being isolated. And so through that period, it was a lot of period of isolation and depression on my part. But by the end of it, God began working on me again, and I decided to go to church and give my life back to God. Within a period of time, I decided to become a pastor. I pursued going to Union College. From there, while I was there, I had a very difficult time spiritually, and was even advised by a member on staff that because my dad was not a pastor, I would not be a good pastor. And I sort of listened to that advice, chose to get away from it, and even pursued other careers. With a period of struggles there, a lot of things happened. Had my 2 children, and got the dream job. Became an A&P mechanic. That's what I did in the military. So I was working on aircraft. While I was away at training for that, my daughter was born. I missed that. And she became deathly ill, given a 50-50 chance to live. And that marked a significant place in my life. It put things into perspective. Job, house, nothing matters, except for the life of my child, who I may never get to see grow up. But I decided at that point, me and my wife, that we wanted to do anything we could to help people. And within a short period of time, that dream job, I had to face the Sabbath issue, because I was going to keep this dream job. I had to work on Sabbath. That's the way it worked out. And long story short, I decided, of course, I had to stand for the Sabbath. So I lost my job, and I lost my house. And during that period, God began talking to me every media that there was, sermons, anything. And I decided that after hearing all these things, I was getting the influence that God wanted me back in the ministry. The day I told my wife, went home, and just happened to grab the mail. It was Sabbath, but in the issue was one of our magazines, an Adventist magazine. And there was a whole article about pastors and their families, and it sort of just really drove it home. Every place I went was talking about that. We decided to come here, and while I can say that this journey here hasn't been easy, God has definitely led, and I can see providentially leading me here to this point.
Amen.